Hello and welcome to APTN National News Weekend. I'm Daryl Stranger. A Quebec courtroom began 13 days of public inquiry hearings this week, examining the circumstances of Joyce Echaquan's death at a hospital in Joliette, Quebec. And as our Lindsay Richardson reports, the call of justice for Joyce is still going strong, 8 months after her passing.
Hand in hand with his young son, Cara Dubé walked up to the Trois-Rivières courthouse and right into a throng of waiting reporters.
Je suis comme vous. Je ne sais pas encore ce qu'il nous attend.
Like you, I don't know what awaits us, Dubé told media before the official kickoff of the coroner's inquiry regarding the death of his wife, Joyce Echaquan.
Je me sens prêt. Je me sens confiant. La famille est là, prête. Nos enfants sont ici avec nous, nerveux mais confiants.
8 months ago, Joyce's death ignited an international uproar over systemic racism in healthcare. A Facebook Live video captured racial taunts made by care staff at Joliette Hospital. This incident is now subject of 2 inquiries, a closed-door coroner's investigation and this public commission.
Il est important de souligner que le comportement ou l'attitude réservée à Mme Echaquan par le personnel du Centre hospitalier régional de Lanaudière lors de son dernier séjour à cet endroit font nécessairement partie intégrante des circonstances de son décès.
In her opening address, the lead coroner on the case promised answers for the family. In turn, the Echaquan family's lawyer had a message for the government.
I hope that they pay close attention to what happens. I think there will be a lot of evidence that will come out that should give birth to political will to really affect actual change instead of putting whatever report comes out of this on a shelf and moving on.
Quebec insists it won't. Indigenous Affairs Minister Yann Lafrenière wrote on Facebook, "Of course we will wait to see the recommendations that will be made at the end of the investigation, which will be added to the more than 500 recommendations made by the various reports guiding my I Hope plan." Premier François Legault did not issue a comment on today's Echaquan Commission. He was busy at a press conference about French language laws.
It's about protecting something that will always be vulnerable, which is our language in Quebec.
But perhaps more vulnerable are the First Nations and Inuit who fear confrontation and discrimination when seeking health care. Something Atikamekw Nation Grand Chief Constant Awashish takes seriously.
Since I have little kids, since I have daughters, I think it's important for me that things change. I don't want them to be. I don't want to be worried personally. I don't want them to be scared to get public services. I want them to feel free to be what they are as First Nation, to be comfortable using their culture, their language. I want them to live in their full potential and contribute in the full potential to the society.
The public inquiry hearings will continue into early June, and while the coroner can't rule on liability, she can issue recommendations and identify the factors that contributed to Joyce's death last September. There are laws preventing us from broadcasting courtroom testimony, but stay tuned. We'll have an update on what was said and by whom coming up tomorrow. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Trois-Rivières, Quebec.
To Saskatchewan now, where a veteran Prince Albert RCMP officer has been charged with first-degree murder in the death of a young man. Police say the killing took place while the officer was off duty. APTN's Priscilla Wolf has the story.
Prince Albert police are investigating the death of 26-year-old Braden Herman. Bernie Herman, who has been an RCMP officer for 32 years, was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder on May 12th. The Prince Albert police said police were called to a wooded area on May 11th within the city for a report of a deceased male. The death is being investigated as a homicide, and the arrested RCMP officer was not on duty at the time of the incident, according to police. Braden Herman's body was scheduled for an autopsy today in Saskatoon. Brett Herman is Braden's older brother and says that both Braden and Bernie are from the Clearwater River Dene Nation, but are not related to each other, even though they have the same last name. Brett told APTN that Bernie and Braden knew each other, but he's not sure of what their relationship was. He said when Braden was living with him last year that Bernie would drive by often and once even showed up at their home.
He came here unannounced, knocking on the door, asking for Braden. And I told him that he was sleeping. I woke him up. Braden answered the door, and they had exchanged a few words. I don't know what was said. But before that, Bernie was making his presence known around my house, around my street. He would drive by my house and like he was harassing my brother in a way.
Brett says Braden never made a complaint about the harassment, but he believes that Braden was gathering evidence.
I tried to get him to open up to me, but my brother was documenting things, I'm pretty sure, on his cell phone, pictures, videos, etc., text messages between the two.
Brett spoke to the Prince Albert police to try get facts.
The cops, the investigation is still ongoing, I believe, and they're very limited to what they can tell me, but they just told me that my brother's body was taken care of, that they have a fugitive in custody, and he is was an active member.
The Prince Albert police have requested an independent observer to help oversee the investigation. The Saskatchewan RCMP Media Relations sent this statement to APTN. The officer is a corporal with 32 years service, and the RCMP has processes in place to handle conduct issues, including those as serious as the arrest. Bernie Herman was scheduled to make his first appearance this morning, but that has been put over until May 26th. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Despite mounting public pressure for 2 Yukon MLAs to resign after sending inappropriate text messages, their political party says they'll receive sensitivity training and keep their positions. APTN's Sarah Connors explains.
It's been 2 weeks since Yukon Party MLAs Stacey Hazard and Wade Echaquan texted sexually crude remarks about Liberal leader Sandy Silver, NDP leader Kate White, and their own leader Curry Dixon. Dixon has since banned the 2 MLAs from sitting on any legislative committees or from serving as critics for the party's shadow cabinet. Several Yukon First Nations groups have also called for their resignation. Now, Dixon has announced the 2 MLAs will be enrolled in workplace bullying and harassment prevention training, and he will be directing the Yukon Party to establish a respectful workplace policy that will apply to all MLAs, staff, and volunteers. There's also been no indication from Dixon that more severe punishments, like removing Hazard and Echaquan from caucus, will be taking place. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Not long after BC announced cell service would be coming to the Highway of Tears, Indigenous advocates in Montreal announced they'll also be relying on phones in the form of a hotline to get tips on women who have gone missing. Lindsay Richardson explains.
Dial 1-855-547-5938.
Hello and welcome to the Ichquay Confidential Tip Line.
And you'll reach this toll-free MMIWG info line.
If you have information about an Indigenous woman that is either missing or has been murdered, please leave a message.
It's confidential, open to callers 24/7. And as of this week,
you will see this on buses, on street columns, in metros, and on billboards on highways.
The number was unveiled on Monday, a joint creation of the Native Women's Shelter and its Ichquay project. They say distrust of the police is still an issue here, so they're offering an anonymous alternative to community members if and when their loved one disappears.
We also find a lot of the times when someone goes missing in Montreal that it is the Indigenous community who knows where these people are.
Within the last 3 years, 47 women have gone missing in the Montreal area alone. Ichquay managed to locate 46. Only one case remains cold.
I think a lot of it is also for Donna Perret, I'm going to keep going back to her. She's been missing since 2018. She's a 32-year-old Inuk woman. Someone knows something out there.
Keanu believes the lack of follow-through on the MMIWG Commission's Quebec-specific findings continues to put these women at risk.
This is an example of how community has the solutions. We aren't waiting for the police or government to take action in order to find Indigenous women, trans and two-spirit people. This is really a huge human rights issue, and there's absolutely no reason why this should continue.
But someone has to monitor the line and pick up the messages. The task goes to Ishkwe's research coordinator, who says the toll-free line could provide more than just hard leads on open cases.
We hope to go to the government and show the actual numbers. And I think the majority of the population in Quebec, they actually don't know how big this problem is, even in the province of Quebec, actually.
The 1855 number goes live as of today and will be open to the public for at least the next 6 weeks, thanks to funding from the City of Montreal. Meanwhile, the Native Women's Shelter and the Ishkwe Project are both hoping to extend it a little bit longer, insisting that this could be a necessary lifeline for the families of missing women in the city. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
We have to take a short break, but still to come. All Manitobans aged 18 and up are eligible for vaccines, what that might mean for those who are hesitant. Welcome back. All Indigenous people over the age of 18 are now eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccine in Manitoba. But as Brittany Hobson shows us, these clinics offer a culturally safe space to build trust and address vaccine hesitancy.
Each day at the Mamawi Wichita Center's vaccine clinic begins in a good way, with the smudging of the day's vaccine supply and a morning prayer. Mamawi is one of the community organizations in the province operating an urban Indigenous immunization clinic. Marion McKenzie is the operations manager for Mamawi. She says it's important the dozens of employees at the site start each day off right.
It can be a little bit challenging. It can be, a little bit tiring seeing all this, and it is very emotionally draining when you come through and you see all these community members coming to get vaccinated, and we just know that we're helping to create a stronger, healthier bond of our circle around our communities.
The clinic opened its doors at the end of April, and since then they've administered approximately 3,000 doses. While getting needles in the arms of a community that has been disproportionately affected by the virus is a high priority, McKenzie says providing a safe space for this to take place has been the most important endeavor.
The biggest piece is that when they walk in here, they don't feel they're walking into a clinic. And the only clinical part about this entire center is literally when you sit in that chair to get the needle in your arm. Otherwise, it's very much a warm, welcoming environment for community.
This includes offering medicine bundles and having a wellness team on hand to help people with filling out forms or accessing other services.
While we have, a clinical team that is is responsible for following those clinical procedures, we have a wellness team that's really responsible for ensuring that everything is done in a good way. And we've been so lucky that we've been able to really marry these two together and find a good way to start the day.
McKenzie says she's seen a large number of elders use the clinic. Vaccine hesitancy is still relevant in the community, but she adds for some, it comes down to prior experiences within the healthcare system. Communication with a trusted organization is key. Across the city, the Manitoba Inuit Association is preparing for their second vaccine clinic. They hosted their first one for Inuit in April.
They felt comfortable that they were greeted by their fellow Inuit community. We had a huger turnout than what we thought. We had inoculated 126 people throughout the day, so we're quite pleased with that.
Janet Ganiuk is the Director of Programs and Services for the association. She says it was important for them to offer services relevant to the community they serve, including transportation, childcare, and signage in Inuktitut.
We wanted to be sure that as many people come out that's able to, that they're not scared or feel forced into getting a vaccine. We wanted to make sure that our community members were well informed with factual information, steering clear of conspiracy theories online.
Ganiak believes offering a culturally safe space has eased some of those apprehensions. The association is hosting another clinic on May 25th, Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
While many parts of the country are grappling with unusually dry conditions, it's spring breakup season in the south part of the Northwest Territories, and this year high water levels have put several communities in a state of emergency. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs tells us more.
This siren signals water levels along the Decho, Mackenzie River, have reached 15 meters high. This weekend, officials in Fort Simpson, Northwest Territories, ordered an evacuation for residents living on the island, more than half of the 1,200-person community.
We're canoeing down the main street. It's pretty wild. I've never thought I'd have to canoe to get to the pump house. We're going to do a level check here at the pump house to see where we are officially at with our water levels.
Of the roughly 700 people displaced, some have been flown to Fort Smith, while others are camping on higher ground or staying with relatives.
Like friends and family in town they have to leave the town, so they're either in Fort Smith or they're staying at relatives at Wild Rose. 4 Mile is still high.
The whole Papal site is pretty much underwater.
Jonathan Antoine, a local filmmaker from Yellowknife First Nation in Fort Simpson, has been documenting the flood.
The hope is the water goes down right away. I don't want it to go any higher. The causeway, I want it to hold up because that's the only transportation that you could go into the community. And my hope is everybody comes together and helps rebuild.
Fort Simpson isn't the only community affected.
The water came up really fast.
Katlodeche First Nation and Hay River are on evacuation alert with rising water levels.
Oh my gosh!
Meanwhile, in Jean Marie River, almost every house has been damaged by water and contaminated with fuel this weekend. The community of less than 100 was evacuated over the weekend. APTN will be following up on evacuation stories this week. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
A settlement that dates back to 1905 over land has finally been resolved in Saskatchewan, and it's the biggest award given so far by the Specific Land Claims Tribunal. APTN's Priscilla Wolf has the story.
The First Nation with the longest name, Mosquito Grizzly Bear's Head Leanman First Nation, has finally closed a chapter on a 25-year legal battle over land taken away from the community in 1905. A decision was made by the Specific Claims Tribunal in January of 2021 that the land was unlawfully surrendered, and they offered just under $127 million. Chief Tanya Aguilar-Antiman said that wasn't enough money for the amount of land, almost 15,000 acres.
What happened was we submitted a judicial review, but at the same time we sent a letter to the minister, Carol Bennett, expressing our disappointment and some of the factors that should have been considered.
The tribunal announced a new settlement amount on May 10th for $141 million plus interest. Ron Maurice, founder and senior partner at Maurice Law, has been working with the First Nation since 2004 and says that the surrender in 1905 was found fraudulent.
The Crown at the time took a vote from what were at that time 3 separate bands.
The Crown allowed Mosquito members who outnumbered the other bands, Grizzly Bear's Head and Leanman, to vote on the surrender of lands belonging to Grizzly Bear's Head and Leanman.
There was an illegal amalgamation, or an illegal surrender rather, in 1905, as well as breaches of the Crown's fiduciary duties in terms of the process that they followed, including allowing government officials to purchase the lands at significantly less than fair market value so they could earn a profit from the resale.
The 3 bands were amalgamated in 1949. Chief Tanya Aguilar-Antiman of the Mosquito Grizzly Bear's Head Leanman First Nation says she's happy with the new decision.
And finally, and one of the most beautiful things I actually really want to emphasize is we never surrendered the land.
The First Nation plans to put the compensation into an independently managed trust to provide a steady source of income. The money will also be used for housing, education, and elder and youth initiatives. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
We have to take one more break, but still to come, a Manitoba Métis woman is being featured on the Olympic Channel. Stay tuned. Welcome back. A new series from the Olympic Channel features the stories of 5 women from around the world who use sport to impact positive change. One Manitoba Métis woman is at the forefront of this new feature series. Tracy Liost is a Métis woman from St. Laurent, Manitoba, and is one of 5 women from around the world featured in a new series from the Olympic Channel called By Her Rules. The show aims to highlight women making a positive impact on people's lives through sport, including themselves. Sport has always been a big part of Liost's life, and as she moves on from playing, she now coaches the next generation and is passing on the same values she learned.
It's always been really essential and a big part of who I am. It was always a really positive outlet for me and kind of built my character as a person. And I'm really kind of humbled that I now have the opportunity to kind of bring all those tools and things that I've learned that have really built my character and then kind of turn it around and get to share those with young people.
In 2015, while only 16 years old, Liost completed a 4-day, 115-kilometer run to raise awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and raised over $6,000 for the Families First Foundation. Now, she's launched a not-for-profit organization called Wanishka, which means Get Up and Rise in Michif. The goal is supporting other Indigenous youth who are looking to reclaim their heritage, share stories, and empower one another to make positive change.
I love to be really active in my community, and that has kind of taken on a role of advocacy while being present in the community and being a person other young people can look up to, while also redefining kind of what it is that society can expect of Indigenous young people and kind of redefining those stereotypes they'd always set for us.
Nicholas Deloy is the executive producer of the series.
Each of those characters in their ground, they're like touching the limit of what other people are thinking that they are supposed to be able to do. And by that, they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible for other people, not only women, in their world, in their country, in their community. So that was really the will to give back and shine a light on those women.
The 11-minute episode can be seen on the Olympics website.
They can continue to count on.
That's all the time we have for this edition of APTN National News Weekend. I'm Daryl Stranger. Have a great weekend.